shocking reaction from Sinner after Alcaraz wins the point of the year. In a year in which both shone as superstars of world tennis, Alcaraz once again left his mark with a stroke of genius that no one, not even his closest rival, could ignore. And Sinner's reaction was so genuine that it became part of history. We're going to tell you why. It all happened during the Monte Carlo Masters 1000, one of the most demanding tournaments on the circuit. Carlos Alcaraz, on one of those days when everything seems to go his way, was facing Daniel Altmaier. In the middle of a very long rally, where it already seemed that both players had given everything on the court, Altmaier tried to surprise him with a perfectly measured drop shot. But Alcaraz not only reached it, he replied with another cross-court drop shot that was even more precise. Altmaier, an untiring fighter, also got to that ball and sent it to the back of the court, forcing Carlos to run as if his life depended on it. That was when the madness happened. On the run and without time to turn around, Alcaraz pulled off a willy that shot between the legs, that not only returned the ball, but placed it in an impossible corner. The stadium erupted, and the video went viral in a matter of minutes. That point was not just a technical shot, it was a statement. A demonstration of Alcaraz's competitive and creative DNA. What was most striking is that he did it at a key moment in the match, under pressure, and with a naturalness that made even the commentators fall silent for a moment. It was one of those moments that make tennis not just a sport, but also a spectacle. As the 2025 season progressed, that point kept circulating on social media, highlights, analysis programs, and forums. There was no one who hadn't seen it. Even players on the tour reacted with surprise and admiration. But there was one reaction that especially caught attention, that of Jannik Sinner. The Italian, who had won the Player of the Year award, couldn't hide his face when he saw that point on screen. During a post-tournament interview, Sinner was shown Alcaraz's point. The camera focused on his face in real time as he watched it, and his expression said it all. First he raised his eyebrows, then he smiled, and finally he let out a quiet wow. There was no need for more words. That sincere and spontaneous reaction went just as viral as the point itself. It was the respect of a rival, of an equal, of a tennis fan. Between Alcaraz and Sinner there is a growing rivalry, but also a mutual respect that elevates the sport. That reaction from Sinner confirmed what everyone was thinking, that the point was not only technically perfect, but also emotionally powerful. It wasn't a simple winner, it was a symbol of what Alcaraz represents: energy, innovation, and courage on every ball. As the season was coming to an end, the ATP began to reveal its annual awards, and the prize for Point of the Year came as no surprise to anyone. Carlos Alcaraz officially received it for that impossible point against Altmaier. What was interesting was how even Sinner's fans celebrated that award, understanding that there was a magic in that play that couldn't be denied. It was one of those points that makes you love tennis even more. What's curious is that, despite the intense rivalry between them, both Alcaraz and Sinner have learned to live with each other's success. In later interviews, Sinner referred to the point as a work of art and highlighted that, although he had had a spectacular season, moments like that reminded him why Alcaraz was a special player. No grudges, no excuses, just sporting admiration. These kinds of reactions are not common in all sports. Sometimes egos prevent people from recognizing someone else's talent. But what Sinner did was authentic. Not only did he fail to hide his surprise, he shared it publicly, proving that the great ones also know how to recognize the greatness of others. That gesture also elevates him as an athlete and as a person. For the fans, this non-verbal exchange between the two became an iconic moment of the season. Many started sharing memes, edits, and videos that linked Alcaraz's point with Sinner's reaction. Some even joked that the point was so good that, for a second, Sinner became a fan of Carlos. The truth is that this human reaction connected with the audience in an unexpected way. Meanwhile, Alcaraz continues to show that beyond titles, awards, or rankings, what really makes him different is the way he plays. The point of the year was not a coincidence, it was the result of years of training, intuition, and pure love for the game. And for someone like Sinner to value it that way only reinforces the idea that we are witnessing a golden generation in tennis. The most exciting thing about all this is that this story is not over. Alcaraz and Sinner will continue to face each other, push each other to the limit, and give us unforgettable moments like this one. What happened with the point of the year was just one more scene in a rivalry that is being written in golden letters. And if this was Sinner's reaction now, imagine what's coming when they meet in a Grand Slam final. Sinner's reaction was not just a nice gesture, it was the validation that tennis is at its best moment. Two young players dominating the circuit, recognizing each other, and leaving moments that go beyond victory or defeat. When a rival genuinely applauds another, you know that what happened on that court was legendary. That willy from Alcaraz will remain engraved in tennis history, but so will Sinner's look when he saw it. Because in the end, what makes this sport great is not just spectacular points, but the emotions they generate and the way even the best allow themselves to be surprised. For the second consecutive season, Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner have shared Grand Slam titles, and the gap with the rest of the group is growing ever larger. The two young champions are thousands of points ahead of their rivals in the rankings, and even the 24-time major winner, Novak Djokovic, has admitted that it will now be very difficult for him to survive against Alcaraz and Sinner in 5-set matches at the Slams. Djokovic, who turned 38 this year, has had an admirable season, reaching the semifinals of all 4 majors and winning 2 smaller ATP 250 titles. And the retired British tennis star Greg Rusedski has stated that the Serbian superstar remains the third best player in the world, despite being ranked behind Alexander Zverev at number 4, and that he should only retire when he no longer enjoys the sport. While Rusedski wants Djokovic to keep playing as long as he enjoys it, regardless of results, the former world number 4 turned expert believes it is up to the next generation to close the gap with Alcaraz and Sinner. And he backed 4 players to do just that. Well, they've separated themselves from the pack. So the next off-season will be huge for this generation to get into that group. I mean, there are some players who have the potential to join, said the former world number 4 exclusively to Express Sport. Francisco Cerundolo, ranked number 21, is full of praise for the world's number 1 and 2. The Argentine is clear about what has to happen to beat the 2 best players in the world. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner have been, by a long way, the best tennis players of 2025. The Spaniard and the Italian, who occupy the top 2 spots in the rankings, have been far superior to the rest of the circuit. Not even the usual top 10 players, Djokovic, Zverev, Fritz, and company, have been able to stand up to them. Only the 2 of them have been able to counter each other. This has been clear after they split the 4 Grand Slams in a single season, 2 each. There has been a lot of criticism about the level of the rest of the players. The lack of challenge that Alcaraz and Sinner face when playing against them has generated a lot of debate about the level that should be shown on court. However, it is the players themselves who acknowledge their superiority. Francisco Cerundolo, world number 21, is aware of how difficult it is to beat the 2 best players in the world. To beat Sinner and Alcaraz, you have to play perfectly and they have to play a little badly. Cerundolo defeated Sinner in Rome 2 years ago but says the Italian's improvement has been incredible. Sinner is very different. He has no weaknesses, no gaps. He's always there. His serve is incredible, his return is sensational, and when you play from the back of the court, he hits the ball very hard, which gives you no time to react. In Paris, I didn't know what to do. He has improved tremendously. 2 years ago, maybe physically he wasn't that good. If you played long matches and long rallies, he made certain errors. Now he doesn't miss anything, the Argentine said in statements to Tennis 365. Carlos Alcaraz and Sinner received the first warning for the Australian Open. The first Grand Slam of the season is already warming up. And some Australians like Kyrgios or de Minaur are eager for a home celebration. 2025 is not over yet, but the holidays for the great swords of world tennis are already over. And that's because there is little more than a month to go before the first Grand Slam of 2026, the Australian Open, gets underway. Specifically, it will begin on January 12th, and some Australians are already crossing days off their calendars because they're eager for a home party. Such is the case with Nick Kyrgios and Alex de Minaur. While the former has returned to activity after several months on the sidelines with the firm intention of playing regularly on the tour again, the latter is preparing thoroughly to try to end the reign of Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. At least, that's how clearly he stated it in his latest interview with Tennis 365. While many compare the Spaniard and the Italian to the famous Big Three and some miss that third figure to make the rivalry similar, de Minaur himself wants to position himself as that third element in the equation. The world number 7 and ATP Finals semi-finalist wants to make that definitive leap in 2026. And the Australian Open could be his first great opportunity. It's not easy at all, but in the end we don't want there to always be 2 players winning all the big tournaments. As competitors, we don't like losing and we have to make every effort to compete with them. In this sense, if he had to choose one of the 2, he opts for Sinner. One of Jannik's greatest virtues is his level, which never fluctuates from day to day. It's one of the most impressive things, both in tennis terms and mentally. A lot has happened to him this year and it hasn't affected him mentally. At Roland Garros, he was 2 sets to 1 up, had match points and lost. It was an incredible match, and then he managed to repeat it at Wimbledon. And he points to his resurgence at Wimbledon after the blow he took at Roland Garros as an example. It's incredible to be able to bounce back from a disappointment like that and play the way he did to win Wimbledon. It's almost as if difficult moments haven't affected him. They bounce off him, stay outside the following week, and that's admirable. You have to play very good tennis from the first point to the last, that's my goal. They're at the top of our game, they've dominated the last 2 years, and the goal is to keep improving and make life difficult for them. Only time will tell if someone else joins that fight for the world #1 spot. Alexander Zverev tried but didn't last long in the attempt. Even so, the German remains in third place in the standings, while Djokovic stays fourth. And that despite the fact that the Serbian has already set himself a very reduced schedule. Alex de Minaur takes home a juicy prize for his latest exhibition. And while the Australian Open arrives, Alex de Minaur is also playing exhibitions to stay in shape and get the necessary rhythm for that first major of the season. And in a tournament organized by Muratoglu in London and included within the Ultimate Tennis Showdown, tournaments with different rules, the Australian emerged victorious and took home $640,000 for the 3 days he competed on British soil.